Very good afternoon to all of you. So today being our day 11, I'm so good to see all of you. Thank you so
Good
much for
afternoon, ma'am.
your time. Very good afternoon, Lavna. So today I wanted to start with something very funny, I could say, and it is related to some kind of a conversations. Okay, so we're all getting engaged with some kind of a conversation, right? So we work in a different place and we do some kind of a work, and you all have your personal life. You are married, you have a husband, you have kids, or if you're a boy, you have a wife, and then again you have a family or a kid or something like that. So today I wanted to, talk about something very nice. It's called a story time song. So it's going to be really very funny, I could say. And let's do that. Okay, so it's going to be just a simple conversation, as I was actually mentioning it to all of you. The lyrics just goes like this. My name is, okay, so I'm going to use my name itself. I'm going to use my name as Divya, and I've just given for a rhythm. I say, I work in a button factory. I've got a husband and one kid. One day, my boss said to me, are you busy, Divya? I said, no. He asked me to push this button with your. Okay. So that's how the conversation goes on. And let's see in case if we are able to make it up. Okay. So, ready, all of you? Okay. So, we will keep our phones muted and we can start off with this. It's just a conversation story time song. Okay. Hey, my name is Divya and I work in a button factory. I've got a husband and one kid. One day my boss said to me, are you busy, Divya? I said, no. He said, push this button with your left hand. Everyone, left hand. Okay. Hey, my name is Divya. I work in a button factory. I got a husband and two kids. One day, my boss said to me, are you busy, Divya? I said, no. He said, push this button with your right hand. Hey, my name is Divya. I work in a button factory. I've got a husband and three kids. One day, my boss said to me, are you busy, Divya? I said, no. He said, then push this button with your right foot. Okay, hey, my name is Divya. I work in a button factory. I've got a husband and four kids. One day, my boss said to me, are you busy, Divya? I said, no. He said, then push this button with your left foot. And we're going to use all four. Hey, my name is Divya. I work in a button factory. I've got a husband and five kids. One day, my boss said to me, are you busy, Divya? And I said, yes. Okay, so we said yes because we all know how much of jumping that we actually do. It is very much similar to the song that we used to use. There was another song, Johnny works with one hammer. You all remember Johnny works with one hammer? So it is something very similar to that. Johnny works with one hammer, one hammer, one hammer. Johnny works with one hammer, then he works with two. Johnny works with two hammers, two hammers, two hammers. Johnny works with two hammers, then he works with three. So you have to take your leg also. Johnny works with three hammers, three hammers, three hammers. Johnny works with three hammers. Now he works with four. Johnny works with four hammers, four hammers, four hammers. Johnny works with four hammers. Now he works with five. Johnny works with five hammers, five hammers, five hammers. Johnny works with five hammers. Now is so tired and is gone for sleep. Okay, so that was one of these songs, which is it's called a number song, which you can also relate to something related to your jobs. So we need to definitely have some kind of a jobs which is going to be coming up, and that's one of the kind of the song that you can actually introduce for your children. The other kind of sing-alongs, what you can always work is like, which is related to your narratives. We call those as narrative songs. Okay, so now whatever we had was giving descriptions. Now I'm going to say the conversational kind of a song that we are having. So we have two people over here. So we have Liza, we have Henry, and there's a conversation which is actually happening between both of them. Okay, so Liza gets a bucket. Sorry, there's a bucket. Okay, just imagine this is the bucket. Okay, so there's a hole in this bucket. Okay, so Henry comes to Liza and says, there's a hole in this bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in this bucket, dear Liza, hole. So what do you think Liza will tell? Liza says, mend it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With mend it, dear Henry, mend it. And then Henry asks, with what shall I mend it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I mend it, dear Liza? With what? With straw, dear Liza. Just think this is straw. With straw, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. With straw, dear Henry, with straw. Okay? And then Henry says, the straw is too long, dear Liza, dear Liza. The straw is too long, dear Liza. It's long. Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry. Cut it. With what shall I cut it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I cut it, dear Liza? With what? With knife. With knife, dear Henry, dear Henry. With knife, dear Henry, dear Henry. With knife. But the knife is blunt, dear Liza, dear Liza. The knife is blunt, dear Liza. It's blunt. What should we do then? Sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry. Sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry. Sharpen it. But with what shall I sharpen it? With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I sharpen it? With stone, dear Henry, dear Henry. With stone, dear Henry, dear Henry, with stone. But the stone is so dry, dear Liza, dear Liza. It is so dry, dear Liza. How do I sharpen it? So Liza says, then wet it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then wet it, dear Henry, dear Henry, wet it. With what shall I wet it, dear Liza? With what shall I wet it? She says, with water, dear Henry, dear Henry. With water, dear Henry, with water. But how will I fetch the water, dear Liza, dear Liza? But how will I fetch the water? And then Liza says, with bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry, with dear Henry, with bucket, dear Henry. Henry is like, but there's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, a hole. Okay, so this gives children some kind of a conversational skills wherein you can give them lots and lots of opportunities. They understand if there is a hole, how do I mend it? What should I need? I have to cut it. There's so many actions that you have to have it, and you can give it for all of your children to actually work in it. So these kinds of sing-alongs are called narratives. Okay, so we need to give, these are kind of dialogues. So you can also use them in your theater shows, and you can also play it like rhythmic songs also. We call this as story time sing-alongs. So whenever you are narrating this particular story, you can have multiple objects and you can spread it all across in your classes, and you can introduce the conceptual using some kind of a story play songs also. And this is one sort of story play sing along that you can actually use it in your classes too. Okay, so this was one of the songs that I wanted to share it with all of you, because every time whenever I would like to give it to you, you need to be also like, getting towards your storylines and other things. So the other important one is like, syllabication, right? So we need to know our names. So all of us, we know our names. Like say, my name is Divya. And how do I break my word? I say Div, yeah. If it's Nagamani, we say Naga, Ma, Ni. So it's a 4-syllable. Now, if it's Maunika, it's Maunika. If it's Priya, it's Priya. If it's Lobna, Lobna. Amina, Amina. It's a 3-syllable word. Adlin. Padmapriya, Padma, Priya. It's a 4-syllable word. Okay, so these kinds of syllabication is very, very important for all of us, because when children are learning to write the spellings, we can also introduce the spellings of our classmates, because we will all be so happy, right? Everybody has to know each other. We all know by faces, we know their names, but how nice it's going to be in case if you're able to write the spellings of your friends' names also. It's going to be really nice. So we can do this kind of a game in our class, which says about like hickety pickety bumblebee. Won't you say your name for me? I say, Divya. And I say, let's say it. Syllabication. I say, Divya. Let's clap it. Divya. On your lap. Divya. With a whisper. Divya. With a shout. Divya. Okay, so everybody does that. Okay, so anytime if I'm pointing anybody, you're going to tell your name in that way. You can unmute and you can say, okay. Now I'm going to ask with Nagamani. Hickety pickety bumblebee, won't you say your name for me?
Nagamani.
Let's say it.
Nagamani.
Let's clap it. No, money, there's one thing, okay? When I ask you, let's say your name for me, you say Nagamani, full name.
Okay.
Let's say it. Nagamani. Format. Okay. Hickety pickety bumblebee, won't you say your name for me?
Nagamani.
Yes. Can we have it?
Nagamani.
Okay. Let's clap it. Now you will clap. Nagamani. On your lap.
Nagamani.
Very good. With a whisper. Yes. With a shout.
Nagamani.
Very good. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to ask Padmapriya ma'am. Hickety pickety bumblebee, won't you say your name for me? Unmute, ma'am. Unmute.
Padmapriya.
Let's say it.
Padmapriya.
Okay, let's clap it. Clap, clap. Clap, clap.
Padmapriya.
Yeah, yes. On your lap.
Okay. Padmapriya.
No, you have Priya. It's 2 syllable. Priya. Priya. With the whisper.
Padmapriya.
Shout.
Padmapriya.
Thank you so much. Okay, now I'm going to ask Monica. Hickety pickety bumblebee, won't you say your name for me?
Monica.
Let's say it.
Maunika.
Let's clap it.
Maunika.
On your lap.
Maunika.
With the whisper. With the shout.
Maunika.
Thank you so much. Lobna.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bumblebee, won't you say your name for me?
Lubna. Lubna.
On your lap.
Lubna.
With the whisper.
Lubna.
Whisper. Quietly. With the shout.
Lubna.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Amina, hickety pickety bumblebee, won't you say your name for me?
Amina.
Where are you, dear? Where are you? Okay, here. Okay. Hi. Yes, let's say it.
Amina.
Let's clap it.
Amina.
On your lap.
Amina.
With the whisper.
Amina.
With shout.
Amina.
Thank you so much. Adeline, hickety pickety bumblebee, won't you say your name for me?
Erlin.
Let's say it.
Erling.
Let's clap it.
Erling.
On your lap.
Erling.
With the whisper. With a shout.
Erling.
Thank you so much. Hickety pickety bumblebee, won't you say your name for me? Swagatika.
Swagati.
Swagatika.
Let's say it.
Swagatika.
Let's clap it.
Swagatika.
On your lap.
Swagatika.
With the whisper. Other shout.
Swagatika.
Amazing. Hickety pickety bumblebee, won't you say your name for me, Priya?
Priya ma'am, you're on mute.
Mute, dear.
Priya, ma'am.
Okay, let's say it.
Priya.
It. I'll do it.
Priya.
On your lap.
Priya.
With the whisper.
Priya.
With the shout.
Priya.
Thank you so much, Delphin. Hickety pickety bumblebee, won't you say your name for me?
Delphin.
Let's say it.
Delphin.
Let's clap it.
Delphin.
On your lap.
Delphin.
With the whisper.
Delphin.
With the whisper. Slowly. With the shout.
Delphin.
Thank you so much. Such lovely, lovely team members I have. Wonderful names and wonderful women out there. And this is how you can introduce the syllabication of your class names. Always look back what you need during in your story time all together. And we would definitely have some kind of an amazing response for children because they would know how each one's names have all got syllabicated. And now children definitely know. As you all know the other students' names and their syllabication and the pronunciations, our children will also definitely understand. Okay, so today being our day 11, we were working with our sensorial exercises. Yesterday, we saw most of our visual sense exercises. And along with that, we also started something called as auditory sense. And we saw two more materials which was related to our auditory sense, correct? So what was those materials? So we saw two more materials which was related to our auditory. That was our sound boxes and we also saw the bells. Okay, so today we're going to go to the next sense. Okay, the next sense that we would be introducing to our children could be related to any of the other things like olfactory sense. It could be the gustatory sense, anything which can be related to all of that. Okay, so sensorial education, why was it so important? Because children do learn with their senses. And as we teachers, we got to give or create any kind of an environment so that, the children will be amazed to work with your sensory educations together. Now we're going to be working something related to our muscular. Okay, so this is called the tactile sense. So I would want everybody to rub their palms. Just rub your palms all together. Okay, so we're going to rub our palms and touch the chin. That's pretty warm. So again, rub your palms. Touch your desk. Touch your desk. It's a different temperature altogether, right? Now, if just touch again and touch the wall, whichever is closest to you or any other object which is right next to you, you definitely had a different set of temperatures and the experience was totally different. Now, this is considered to be as your what? Senses related to feel, right? You are going to be touching a particular object and you're experiencing the feel of that particular object's temperature. So we're still dealing with the temperatures. We're not dealing with the textures. So whenever you want to be working with those temperatures, we call that sense as thermic sense because it is related to what? It is related to your temperatures and we call that as thermic sense. Now here particularly, we would be working on two materials. Now here we would be working with temperatures. Now what would I do is like I bring a material called my thermic bottles. What do I bring? I bring my material called thermic bottle. And with this thermic bottle is what I am going to be working is I'll pour some temperatures along with that. Just give me a minute. Hello? Call, let's come outside. Give him. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So when we're working with this thermic bottles, what we would be having over here is like, you would have 6 bottles altogether. We would have how many bottles? We would have 6 bottles. Now, each of the bottle, I can fill in the water. I will be filling in the water, but the water temperatures will be different. So we're going to be heating up the water. Okay. And then we're going to be pouring that water. So 2 water bottles will be hot water. 2 bottles are going to be tepid waters. 2 could be room temperature waters. Another 2 could be really cold waters. Now you can extend. You want to have 4 bottles, 6 bottles, 8 bottles is up to you. But what are we going to be introducing over here is like hot and cold. Hotter, colder, hottest, coldest. This becomes your gradation. So what we are generally going to do over here is like, there's a game called hot potato, right? So there's a game called hot potato. So in that particular game, you can pretend. Now, since we don't have anything hot in our hand, okay, so we're going to take the potato. Everybody take the potato. Take the potato. There's a potato in your hand. It's called the hot potato game. Okay, now you will keep it. Just imagine if it's very hot, what would you do? Manage till it's hot. Okay, you tend to put it to the other hand. You tend to put it in your other hand. You will manage it till you can take it, right? Your skin could take it. And after that, what would you do? You will either throw it to your friend or give it to your friend, or you will drop it down. Okay, so in our classes, what we can do is like in the schools, whenever we do these exercises, we pretend as if it's very hot and we gently pass it on to our friend. And the friend takes it and pretends as if it's very hot and they pass it over to the other person. Okay, and then we do that in a circle. And at last, what happens? The temperature, the teacher invites, the teacher tells them, the more and more that you keep transferring, by the time it comes back over here, we would be able to have it for a longer period of time. For this in real, you can give them a potato, which is slightly hot, and you can give it to them, let them experiment, and they will be able to transfer it. But this is a game, okay? It's a game called hot potato game, so you could really play it with your classes. Now, what did your child experience there? The child experienced the sense of hotness, right? It was really hot. The same thing you can do it with your ice cubes also. The ice cubes also, you can put them onto their palms, and now both the palms have some ice cubes. And now what we do, we wobble around, and then again we try to transfer. The more time that you can take it, you can tell to children like you could bear that much of cold for a longer period of time, and you kept on shuffling. And what happened for the ice cubes? It started to melt because of the temperature and the heat that got generated from your palm. So that is when the teacher tells children, generally we have some temperatures within ourselves. The more harder you rub, you can feel it. The more harder you can rub your palms, you can feel it. And then you ask them to touch their body parts itself on different parts. Okay, so most of the time, we have our, the area behind our ears is slightly warmer most of the time. You can ask the child even to, touch their armpits. They ask them to touch it. So this has to be done. Okay. You ask them that the temperatures are going to be really warmer over there. So that is the reason that the doctor will always keep the thermometer in these particular places, because they get the real temperature of your body itself. You can tell children, see, you could experience something. Now, is it feasible for me to bring the hot water, the cold water, the ice cubes most of the time into my classes? Maybe when I'm introducing the conceptual to children, I bring in a lot of things. But eventually, it becomes difficult for the teachers also every time to bring the ice cubes and heat up the water, because every time that the child sensitizes the bottle, it becomes really colder and colder because we are transferring the heat from one bowl to another one. So what is the material that we generally use over here? It's called your thermic bottles. It's called thermic bottles. So everybody note down the next material what we have is called as thermic bottles. Okay, thermic bottles. Now in that there are different bottles in which you're going to be pouring the water, and then you would be able to do what? You will be able to experience the temperatures altogether. Okay. Now, since it was difficult for me, I bring in another set of material. Okay. It's called as my thermic tablets. Okay. Now, what is this thermic tablets? Let me explain it to you all. Thermic tablets are a material. Okay. So I would have different materials like this. Some could be glass. Some could be wood. Some could be some metal and other kinds of metals. And I could have coal or any other kinds of sheets. Now, what am I going to do over here is like, I would sensitize my fingers, but I wouldn't be touching it with my palm. But even more sensitive areas could be your wrist, right? So I'm going to experience this on my wrist. I could feel the temperature of it. Now, everyone try. If there's any object around you, try to experience this on your wrist. Try doing it. Pick any object. Steel box, yes, Priya is having this. So we can experience anything with your wrist. You got the temperature, right? Now try to choose a different material altogether and experience it with your wrist. You will feel even more better. The sensitivity is even more better than your palm. Wrist has got better sensitivity. Try it out for yourself. Try keeping the palm. Try keeping your wrist. Which one was better? Which one was better?
Wrist.
Wrist was much better, right? So that's the reason we gave it for children also. The first exercises you ask them to touch this way. Second time we ask them to experience by the wrist. So they would get more knowledge towards working. So what as a teacher you would do is like you give them different things like this and you ask them to experience it with your wrist, and then you would match. If there was anything else which was matching to it, you say these two are of the same temperatures and these two are of the same temperatures because, okay, these two are same. So likewise, I can give glass, I can have wood, I can have another piece of metal, I can have cork. Okay, there could be many other such materials that you can collect it, and you would be experiencing the natural temperatures of these particular materials. So this gives children what? It gives them an exposure. It gives them an exposure to check onto the temperatures. Okay, so that's very important. These are our thermic tablets. So what were the two materials that we saw? We saw thermic bottles. Bottles is simple. Okay, so any two thermos bottles you can take, heat up the water and pour it into it. Let the child hold that water and sensitize it. Now say somebody has the water bottle, right? Which looks like a flask, thermos. Somebody has that. I have a thermos. Okay, so I would put the water into it, but I should be able to feel the temperature of the water. So when I'm touching the bottle, I should be able to feel the temperature. But in case if you're using the thermos bottles like all of us, it will have its own temperature. But we have to use the glass or the plastic or any other kind of things. Even the steel glasses are fine. So you can pour the water and actually ask the child to experience the various temperatures. So these are the two materials: thermic bottles, thermic tablets. Okay. So these are the two materials that you would be using to introduce what sense? What sense?
Thermic sense.
Sense, yes. So before doing that, what we had to do? We had to
Sensitize.
our hands, our sense. No, we need to sensitize our fingers. We need to sensitize our palms because we need to get the proper kind of a sense altogether. Okay, so that was very, very important. Fine. Okay. So let's move on to the next sense. What do you think that the next one would be? What would you think the next sense that we can pick it up? Shall we take the next sense as, okay, one more thing is also there, guys. One more thing is also there. It's called fabrics. Okay, I forgot about that. The next one is about, no, fabrics is totally different. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. It's called the tactile sense. Tactile sense is related to a sense of touch. It is related to your sense of touch. And we would use materials like touch boards. We use materials like touch boards and materials called as fabrics. These are the two materials that we would be using. So two things. One is your touch board, the other one is your fabric. So we would be using these two things to help our children to work on it. So this is related to your tactile sense. Now, as I said before, sensitizing your fingertips is really, really essential, be it for your thermic sense or for your tactile sense. We need to help our children to sensitize the fingertips. So what will you do? Now you're going to tell children, I'm going to show you something, the first material, and that material is called as touch tablets. It's called touch tablets or touch boards. Okay, so we're going to use a touch board or a touch tablet. And we are going to be sensitizing our fingertips also. And then is what? And then is what you're going to be working towards the entire arrangement of the material. So this looks like this. The touch board looks like this. So one side over here, it's really soft, or I could say smooth. This part is rough. So if everybody is quiet, you can hear the sound of it. Could you hear it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Hear anything because it's really soft. The more rougher it is, the more sound it actually makes. Now, what we need to do before introducing this is you would sensitize your fingers and then you would gently touch on this and you say rough, smooth, rough, smooth. So this activity will be given to the child just to experience the different textures. It could be either rough or it could be smooth. Now, once the child gains the confidence in this, once the child gets confidence in this particular thing of rough and rough and smooth, what next you can actually give is like another board, which would be an alternative of a rough, smooth, rough, smooth, rough, smooth, rough, smooth, and rough. Okay, this is done. Now you're giving them an exposure to work on this alternative thing. You work with like this. You say rough, smooth, rough, smooth, rough, smooth, rough, smooth, and rough. Now the child got the alternative experiences of using both the roughness and the smoothness. So this material is called your touch boards. Okay, so this is called your touch board. This also comes with smaller pieces. Okay, so now I had a board, but what you could also have is like, when everything is being broken into the smaller pieces like this, it's called touch tablet. So it will have a rough tablet, then a smooth tablet, a rough tablet, a smooth tablet. It will have multiple things like that. Okay, and it will also have grading. So we can also have another extension to this, wherein you would have another board which will be divided into 5 more parts like this. The board will be divided like this. Everything will be related to smooth surfaces itself. Okay, this will be smooth. This is even more smooth. This is even smooth. This is even more smooth. And this is even more smooth. So here, when I'm trying to experience all of that, you get the gradation. You get the grading from smooth till the smoothest. Okay, from smooth till the smoothest gradation, you will be able to get it. I would be also having another board like that, similar to it, which will be focusing on my roughness. So this is rough, this is more rougher, this is even more rougher, This is the roughest. So this is going to be the roughest one. So we can have another kind of a board like this, which I do not have it to show it to you. You also get these two kinds of boards also, wherein you will be able to experience everything. And both of this, along with the boards, whatever I showed you, is called as your touch boards. It's called your touch boards, BOARDS. So when I break it into individual pieces, they become touch tablets. Okay, so when I break it into individual pieces, it becomes touch tablets. When I'm having them together, like the board like this, which is all mounted together, it's called a touch board. When I'm breaking it separately, each one separately, it becomes your touch tablets all together. Okay, so that was one of the material that you had to work with your tactile sense, because you're trying to work on a sensitivity over here, right? So that is your touch tablets. Now, what is the next material that you have to be learning? Is called as fabrics. It's called fabrics. Now, I want you all to work on an exercise just like that. So everybody, okay, the next sense is again a tactile sense, but we are going to work on a material called fabrics. Okay, all of us are wearing clothes which is made up of different material, correct? So let's experience our clothes. You can just feel your clothes. Just feel it. It could be anything. So mine, I'm wearing a cotton. Any other fabrics that we have it for today? It's very cold here, so I have my jacket also. So
Nylon.
okay. Lobna has nylon. Any other fabrics? I also have a woolen. I'm wearing a woolen socks because it's very cold. Okay. Any other fabrics we are wearing today?
Polycotton.
Poly cotton. Okay, and I'm wearing jeans. So I'm wearing a denim pant. I'm wearing a denim. Yeah. I'm wearing a leather belt. So leather. You can check yourself, like what are the different things that you're wearing.
Chiffon.
Yes, yes.
Chiffon.
Chiffon. Somebody is wearing a chiffon one. And if you're wearing a legging or something which is related to your lycra fabric, I can have lycra, nylon, rayon fabric. You can also have rayon scarves and lycra scarves. Yes?
Wool. Wool.
Woolen I've written here. Woolen. Jute. Okay. Jute. What? Okay. So if there's a carpet next to you, it's made up of jute. You can also give that.
Silk.
Pardon?
Silk. SILK.
Silk. Okay, silk cotton. Okay, silk fabric. Okay. All right. My favorites. Okay, I love silk fabric. Amazing. They look stunning on you. Okay. So these are the fabrics that our class is wearing today. Okay. So with us itself, what if we would have all been together? We could have touched each other's clothes and we could have experienced. We do that. We do that in our classes. Okay. So if everybody is wearing a different thing, when you're going for a gathering, if you liked what your friend wore and you felt like touching it, we do that, right? Be honest. I do that. Oh, what a wonderful dress you're wearing. What is the fabric? It looks amazing on you. You go and touch it, right? When you touch the fabric, you get the feel of it. Only once the fabric is comfortable, you feel like wearing it on you. Correct? Am I right? So your fabric needs to be more comfortable to you. And so is with children also. So when we introduce fabrics to children, we need to also wear comfortable clothes. And why fabrics are required for all of us? Because they keep ourselves warm, and they keep ourselves adapted to the environmental temperatures. That's the reason we do have different kinds of fabrics in the materials. And children should know, according to the seasons and temperatures, they need to also be changing the different clothes. Okay, so we do this in our weather lessons, season lessons, right? Summer clothes, winter clothes, what are the autumn clothes? We do that, right? And other thing apart from that, we also give fabrics is because the sense, how do they feel it? How does the fabric feel? The child will have to know about it. And for that reason, we use a material called fabric. And in this fabric box, we will give them small pieces of all the materials, whatever we listed. We'll give them to denims, to nylon, to silk fabric, to polycotton, to jute, to foil, and then to rain, to any other things. Okay. So we give them as a pair. We give them all these materials in pair. So your, what do you call, like your fabric box will have all these materials. For example, I would have 3 boxes of fabrics like that. In my box one, what would I have? Note it down. It's important for us to know. So in my box one, I would have the following material. So I would have everything which is related to natural materials. So what are all natural materials? If can somebody tell?
Cotton,
Wool.
It's grown
woolen,
wool.
Wool.
It silk also from silkworms. Wool from
Wool.
jute.
jute,
Jute I can have. I can also have flax, right? So what I could have is like I need to have a pair of all this in my box one. So my box one will have all these fabrics. Okay. My box two. In my box two, these are wonderful. The box one will have all the natural material. In my box two, I will have all the coarse materials. What do I mean by coarse? What do I mean by coarse material? Which is slightly coarse. Okay. So what was coarse materials? Which is slightly rough, I could say, and slightly thick, I could say. Maybe denim. Yeah, I can take denim. I can take corduroy. Yeah. I can take corduroy. Then even the fabrics like dotted Swiss, burlap. Okay, so all these are slightly coarse material that we actually have, and we generally use it. And where do we use it? Mostly the denims and the corduroys, definitely for our trousers we use, right? And dotted Swiss, burlap, most of the time we use them in jackets, right? So we can have these two as our box two material, which is totally of a course. In my box three, I would go with very fine material, very fine. You will always fall in love with those materials and you would want to wear most of the times. Occasionally you use it and they're very fine material. And when you drape them, you look amazing. Material like chiffon. Then satin, organza. Come on.
Leather. Leather.
Leather, leather also I can have. And then I could also have chamois, right? And then what else could be there? Felt also I can.
Ma'am, silk also fine material, right?
Silk is fine, but I have classified that into natural material. This is not man-made.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have put that into natural. Silk also can come with fine, but I have put that into natural.
Okay.
Okay, so
Also, mom, leather will give with natural also.
which one?
Leather.
Leather. Yeah, you can have. I've written leather. Leather can also come under natural. Yes, leather you can put it under natural. Instead of fine, you put it under natural. Okay, so this is what we would take it. Now, you had all these boxes. Now I need something more interesting is I got to use a blindfold because I want the children to sensitize the material. I don't want them to see it. I ask them to blindfold. Now, since we're not using a blindfold right now, we will be honest and we will close our eyes. But since we do not have the fabrics with us, so it's okay, right? So we'll watch it like how those materials are and what do we generally do it for those materials. Okay. So let me quickly show you the material, how it looks like. So it is a box of the fabric material. So we're going to be having this boxes all together and you can place the box. You can place it over here. see here, your box has fabrics. So this is jute. Okay. So try and feel. Even velvet. We forgot about the velvet. So this is coir. These are very coarse. The velvet is very smooth and soft and nice it is. So again in velvet, you do get different, what do you call? Different kinds of velvets also you get, right? The very smooth one, even very smooth one, coarse velvets, multiple things like that, we do get it. Now, why we are doing this fabrics is when the child is blindfolded and he experiences all of this, it becomes really nice. So this is cotton, and then you could have a fine lining material that you give. It's also coarse. Okay, so whenever you want your gowns and other things to be like, canned, so you can use those very coarse materials to give you a little bit of this. What do you call like the puffiness into your frocks and other things. So you can give it as a lining. So next is like you get the other pair of it. Now is what you plan and check for the counters. Okay, so what goes with it? So you touch this fabric, blindfold it, touch and feel it. Okay, so you touch and feel the fabric all together. And you experience the fabric. Which ones are going together? Are they going together? We check for every material. So always remember you need to close your eyes when you're doing. So these two go together. You can start from the beginning because always go in sequence. They do not match. They do not match. So what the reason why I asked you to get blindfolded is only because when children are not blindfolded, they go by color. They go by the visual sense. They would not even touch. They say, okay, brown and brown goes together, blue and blue goes together, white and white goes together. And the child would have completed the activity by now. But since we wanted them to experience the tactile sense, the sense of touch, we actually gave a blindfold to the child with a different piece of fabric boxes. Okay, so you can choose it up, like how many you want to give. So initially you can start with 3 fabrics, then slowly get added on to 4 and 5, and then you give them the entire set of boxes. So this is your fabric box, and this is an amazing material that you could introduce in your classes for your children to introduce the, what do you call, like smooth and rough and different kinds of textures all together. So that was your sense of tactility. The next one is like every time. Okay, I wanted to tell you about this thermic bottles, right? So if at all, if you don't have the bottles, what you could do is like, you can bring in some kind of bottles from your home, okay? And you can heat up the water into different temperatures altogether, just like this. Okay, so we can heat up the water into different temperatures like this. And you're pouring the water into different temperatures. Now you would just feel it and experience those bottles. You say, okay, now you keep your palm onto another, what do you call, like, handkerchief or another towel, or you again sensitize back your fingers so that the temperature is not getting transferred to your palm. Most of the time we got to be doing that. So experience it, sensitize your hands by rubbing your palms, or you can place it onto a towel or something, and then find out what are the 2 bottles which are going to be matching for our temperatures. So this is our thermic bottles. Okay, so this is a DIY. Okay, if you don't have the proper thermic bottles, you can take any of these plastic bottles or the glass bottles, and you can put water where you can heat them into different temperatures altogether, and then you could introduce it into your classes. So that is another material which I wanted to share it with all of you. Okay, so let's go to
Ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, can we use glasses?
Yeah, you can. You can. You can directly
Ma'am?
this.
Mom,
Yes.
We can also do it by lunchbox of any child.
You
And
can.
we
Yes,
can
you can do
we
it.
can also do it.
It need not be just the bottles and other things. Okay. What you can also do is like you can pour water into different containers or the bowls or jars. You can ask the child to even put their fingers and check. But the teacher will have to be there only because you should not keep boiling water and all of that. It should have the resistance to put. So you heat up the water to such a degree where the child will be resistant enough to put their hands inside and it should not hurt the child. It's just to feel the temperature. So you can ask them even to hold the tiffin boxes, lunch boxes, you can. So when you're heating up the food, you can give them to experience the food. Okay. So that can be done. That's not a problem at all. Fine. Shall we move forward? Yeah. Okay. The next sense is related to our baric sense. It's called baric sense. And any time that we are working with the weight, anytime we are working with the weights, we experience the weights, right? So every time you're carrying something, we say, okay, this is so heavy. So we are related to our baric sense altogether. We say, oh, this is so heavy. And when I have another one with me and I say, oh, this is so light, I say, this is heavy and maybe this is light. So when we carry two objects altogether, one might be heavy and one might be light. So that's the reason anything that is related to our weights, we categorize that as baric sense. Now for this to introduce, we use a material called baric tablet. We use a material called baric tablet. Note down, we use a material called baric tablet. Now, how do we describe the baric tablet? Now, your baric tablet will have three boxes. Okay, just like how I said, it will have three boxes. Your box 1, your box 2, and your box 3. So, this is your box 1, box 2, and your box 3. Your box 1 is for all the lightweight, very lightweight. And each of the tablet inside is weighing just 20 grams. It will weigh 20 grams. The box 2 is medium. And each of the tablet inside is how many grams? It is 30 grams. And the last one is my heavy. Box 3 will have tablets which are heavy. And each of my tablet is going to be how much? It's going to be my 40 grams. And the name of this material is called baric tablet. It's called baric tablet. Okay. The other one I wanted to tell you is like, now every tablet, whatever it is made up of here, right? It is made up of a material called wood. It is made up of wood. You have to remember that. And each of them also have a color. Okay. So the light one is the lightest color. Medium is medium brown. Heavy is dark brown. So they're all related to color also, I could say. We also have a color for each one of them. The light one is light color. The medium one is slightly of a medium color. The heavy one is very darker in color. So what is the child going to do here is, we are going to, with the help of baric tablets, we are going to introduce a concept of light and heavy. Light and heavy. So this is my positive degree. I could also have my comparatives and I can also have my superlatives. Okay. So if it is comparatives, light, lighter, heavy, heavier. If it is superlative, lightest, lighter, light,
Lightest, heavy, heavier, heaviest.
yes. So we can have these three. So this is the language that I'm going to be introducing, or the concept that you're going to be using. Now, why do we do that? Because we wanted to refine the baric sense. We want children to understand about the weights. Okay. So how does the material look? What is the first thing that I have to do? So everybody collect any two objects next to you. Any two objects. Okay. Any two objects. which has to be really good enough. Okay, so I'm taking two objects. Any two objects, all of you take any two objects and take it in your hand like this. Put it on your palm. Okay. Now, close your eyes because we need to do this closing our eyes. Just feel the material with one hand. I'm going to open my hands because I want to open my eyes because I'm watching all of you. So just gently do this. Okay. So for the first time, you can watch me. Just feel the material and tell me which is heavy, which is light. You will be able to get it, right?
Light.
This is light. So this is heavy and this is light. And if you're keeping it for a longer time, probably your hands are going to hurt, right? So that's the reason we use very tiny materials in our classes also for children. We give them small objects and we ask them to lift and check which is heavy, which is light. But what if I would have given them, an apple and a pumpkin? Which one do you think is heavy?
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin. How did you know? Because we did it by visual sense. You saw it. It looked small, so probably it is light. It looked big, so probably it is the heavier one. But what if I would have blindfolded? Unless and until you lifted both of them, you wouldn't know it either. What if I would have taken a basket and I would have added more and more of apples, which was much more heavier than the pumpkin? Now the child will really experience like both of them are equally heavy and they need help. Correct? So you can give in your classes also many such practical exercises for the child, but you have to blindfold them. This is important. So you got to be blindfolding them. So you can even put the bandana or you can tie a handkerchief or anything, but always make sure the child is closing their eye. So you need to close your eyes when you're doing it. Unless and until we don't cheat, you need to close your eyes. So it's better that you blindfold so that there's no point of cheating only with children. Okay, so children become really confident when they're actually blindfolded and then you assist them. Okay, now the material is very simple. It's called your baric tablets. And what is the material? It is your baric tablet. And we have how many boxes? 3 boxes. Just remember, we have 3 boxes of baric tablets. I'm going to show you the material. Just give me a minute. Okay, so this is how the material looks. So it's made up of wood. Okay, so it's made up of wood. This is your baric tablet altogether. So we have how many boxes? 3 different boxes. Now if you see slight difference in the color. So what you generally do is like you take the tablet and you keep it onto your palms. You experience the material. So that's your box 1, box 2 and box 3. Each one is differing how many grams? 10 grams. See the color difference. The lightest and the darkest. So if I wouldn't have blindfolded, the child would have gone by the visual sense itself. Now try and experience which is heavy and which is light. Okay, so this is how you give the child to experience, and there is a gradation from lightest to the heaviest, or light, lighter, lightest, heavy, heavier, heaviest. Okay, these are the 3 sets of materials that we would be using in our class to introduce our children. What sense? A sense of weight, which is called as your baric sense. And we use a material called baric tablet to introduce the conception. It's very, very simple. You just have to experience it. And then you start bringing many other materials from your environment. And then you start experiencing each one of them. But only thing, just close your eyes and just experience, okay, so this is light and this is heavier. Okay, so that's going to be one of the simple exercise for your baric sense. Fine. So let's move to the next sense. Okay, so what do you think the next one could be? We did thermic, we did tactile, we have to do sense of smell, correct? Okay, So anything related to your smell, anything related to smell as olfactory sense. We call it as olfactory sense. And we need to use a material called as smelling jars. So we use a material called smelling jars. Okay. Okay. So how does this smelling jar look like? I'm just going to show you. So this is your smelling jar. Can everybody see this? Yeah. So this is going to be your smelling jar. So it's got a tray and it will have two sets. If you see here, so it will have two sets. Okay. So this is the first set and this is another one. So it will have two sets of the opaque jars. It should not be transparent. It should be opaque. Okay. Now, if I'm opening this, it will just have some small holes here. It will have some small holes, just like how we have it in our salt and pepper bottles, right? So similar to that is what it's going to have. Now, what I am going to do is, you can take some cotton. Okay? Or if you don't have cotton, what you could do is like you can take some a very dry tissue, slightly moisten it, and then you have to add some kind of an odor into it. So if I'm going to spray my perfume on this, okay, and if I smell this, it's going to be really nice. On the other one, probably I will take the other one and I would pour some vanilla essence into it. So the child will be able to experience the vanilla essence smell. Like that, I can take multiple things. I can take coffee powder and I can put it. I can take cinnamon powder. I can put it into it. So ultimately, we can have a combination of a good smell and a bad smell. Okay, even some green leaves, you can actually put onions, you can chop and you can put. So it's up to you. So what if you do not have this? Now, what here, one thing what you need to remember is, anytime you're giving anything for the child to smell, it should not be any allergic substances also. So that is one thing that we will have to keep it, because the child keeps it really close to their nose when they're just sniffing it. Okay, so make sure that the child is not allergic to whatever you're putting it. Okay, so you need to take a consent with the parents much before that we are going to be doing a smelling exercise, and these are the things that we're going to be using it. And do let us know in case if your child is allergic to sniffing them. Okay, so some of the time what we do is like we give them the flowers also to smell the flower. Okay, and you have to make sure when they're smelling flowers, the flower should be pollen free. That is one thing that you can actually work with it. So you bring the smelling jars right close to it and you tell children to actually smell it. Now, what am I going to be talking about here? A good smell, a bad smell. We're just talking about the odor and we're just talking about the fragrance, whether did you like it or whether you didn't like it. So there is nothing kind of conceptual that you're going to be teaching over here. So you will tell it's a pleasant smell, a good smell, a bad smell, or just a refinement of senses is what you're going to be working with. Okay, I like the smell so much. So you can take children to different rooms in your classroom, and they can smell the classroom also. You can take them to washrooms. They can smell the washroom. After it is cleaned, they can smell the freshness in the washrooms. But after it is used and it has not been cleaned, children can actually feel the odor in the washrooms, especially the dustbins and all of that. The children need to smell it. Matlab, let them be a little far and they could smell it. So this is going to help them to discriminate the odor and the fragrances also. So what kind of things that you can actually give it over here? Now, what if you do not have? What if you do not have any of those materials like that? You can make up your own material. So you can collect any bottles like this and you can put something into it and you can ask the child to actually smell it. Okay, or if you don't have any of the bottles altogether, you can take a bowl and stuff some materials into it and you can ask the children to actually smell it altogether. Okay, so here is one of the exercises what we are trying to work over here. So this is what we do in the class. So you have to write that this is smelling bottles. So you want to show to children that it is. And you can always tell the children that we use our nose, the sense organ. Show them where is your nose. We use nose to smell. Teach them how to sniff, to inhale and to exhale. So they should know. So you can take any essences. So I'm just taking cinnamon and some vanilla extract and pepper. You can also use pepper. And you could help the child to actually work on the pepper too. And when they're trying to work on these bottles, now much before itself, like I had taken up, a cotton. Okay, so you need to moist a little bit of cotton over there, and then you could put that into the bottle and add some of the essence into it, and now gently ask the child to smell, it. So this is a DIY. It is not the proper smelling jar. So most of them, because they're all homeschooling right now. So if you have any of these kinds of bottles, you can actually, prepare it yourself and you could introduce it into your classes too. So what we're going to do is like just a matching exercise. Which two smells are same? Which two smells are different? Which smell that the child liked it and which smell the child did not like it? So it's up to you. You can ask more questions. Okay, so there's cotton, enough cotton, and you just have to sniff it. Okay, so when you sniff it, you will be able to understand the smell. Okay, as simple as that. It's a very simple exercise. It's to help children understand, to discriminate the smell. Okay, a sense of smell, which we call it as the olfactory sense, because the children need to be smelling the good smell and the bad smell. I don't say bad smell. So it's like whichever the smell that they actually like it. So this is our smelling jars. Okay. So that was related to our sense of smell, which is considered to be as olfactory. The next sense or the next material that we would be learning today is going to be related to our tasting. Correct? So we use our sense organ, tongue, to taste, and this sense is called as your gustatory sense. It's called gustatory sense. And what is the material that we use to help children learn this? We use a material called tasting bottles. Okay, so it's really difficult for me. I don't like, I never use this material. Since it's a Montessori center, I have always kept this, but I've never used it. Never used it, not even once. Okay, so this is the material. It's called your tasting bottles. We have never used it. Why? Because it's so. How would you eat with this? It's very disgusting, right? So it's better to eat it from the bowl, and you have to use this and give a pinch to the child to know the sense of taste, whether it is sweet or sour or bitter or spicy or tangy or anything. I've never used it, not even once. It's brand new. You can see, never used. I can still see some dust which is accumulated on that because it's from yours, it's just like that. I don't use this. So rather what I do is like, I collect the fresh bowls and we have fresh vegetables. You can give fresh fruits. You can have any other kind of eatables, which is related to your sense of tasting. What are the 5 different senses of tasting? Sweet, I can bring in some candies and chocolates. Sour, I can bring some melons and lemons. Then bitter, I can bring some vegetables which are really bitter. Then I could have a spicy, chili, or any other curry which is slightly spicy, because the child will have to understand the spice. Then salty. Now for salty, I bring some salt chips. For spicy, probably I can bring some spicy food or anything like that. For salty, I can get some French fries and other things. So what you need to do in your classes is like you would prepare an environment wherein you would fill up with different bowls, different kinds of food, which is related to all these categories. Some food is sweet, ice creams, donuts, cakes, pastries, candies, and chocolates you can set up over there. And sour, lemon juice, lime juice without sugar or the sugar syrup. Okay, so you can put them bitter gourd curry or any other vegetable which is slightly bitter, like neem leaf, another thing. You can really ask them to bite it and check. So they will understand the sense of taste. So they say, oh, this is bitter. You need to have a combination of all of them. Only then your taste buds will be really good. Okay, so the taste bud would be really good enough to identify which kind of flavor that they liked it. Did you like either the sweet? Did you like the sour? Did you like bitter? Did you like salty things? Did you like spicy things? Okay, so you can really put that. So if I'm using these bottles, what I have to do is like probably I have to put some sweet syrup into it. And with the help of this dropper, I just give them one drop of it and then they have to taste it. So I'm not a huge fan of this material, but this is an amazing exercise. We always love doing. And whenever we have this as an activity, children love doing this as an activity. Okay, so you can work on this. So this is your tasting. It's called the tasting bottles. So we have
Like that.
foods all together.
Like it.
So got it?
Like that. Thing. I'm not even seeing.
Okay.
We can see different types of expression.
You can see different. Definitely. Which was the best one? The best
The best one is lemon, lime.
lemon
So
when you actually put it, they do not like it so very much.
yes.
Expressions. And especially the kids who are much younger, like 2.5 years, they would not know. But when you're giving it to 3.5, 4, they would understand, ma'am, I don't want to taste it. They would tell it in front of you that they don't want to taste it because they already have understood really so, right? So they understand it. So it's nice. But when you're doing it as a group activity, you will always encourage children like, yeah, this is an activity that you can do it. So when we did it, our children loved this activity the most. And sense organs, learning sense organs is something which is really nice when you do it as a part. But when you're giving it in your class, okay, all of these together, and when there's like the entire table is set, the child is like tasting every dish after the other, right? So you need to give them, you need to ask them to carry the water bottle. Okay, so never forget that. After they taste something, they need to sip a little bit of water and then only go to the next taste. Only then they would get the complete richness of that particular taste, like what it is. So you need to also make sure, children, you can carry. So whenever you have set your sensory table of, like tasting exercises, so you always ask them to come with the water bottles, especially. So they have to carry the water bottle. And after tasting everything, ask them to sip one sip. The teacher will also come with the bottle and you can also sip and you have to teach. So they come. Okay. So this is one of the exercise that you can actually work for helping the child understand the different tasting experiences altogether. So this is one of our exercise in our Montessori. So this covers olfactory, gustatory. So that's our tasting bottles. Then we had olfactory, that was our smelling jars. Then we did thermic sense, thermic bottles, thermic tablets. Then we did baric sense, baric tablets. Then we did touch, right? So we did touch boards, fabrics, correct? So these were some of the materials which covered most of it. And now the last important sense for us, which we have to cover the most, is called the stereognostic sense. Okay, it's called the stereognostic sense, which is really important for me to work on. It's called the stereognostic sense. Now, what are we going to be working on the stereognostic sense? We would have multiple other materials. The first material that we're going to be learning is called the geometric solids. The geometric solids. Yesterday we saw geometric solid tray, but today we're going to see the solids itself. Okay, so it's called the geometric solids. That's our first material. So note down what are the different things that we do have it in our geometric solid. Okay, so we will have the different objects. So we would have multiple objects. The first one is going to be your sphere. The first solid figure is going to be your sphere. The second one is going to be your ovoid. The second one is going to be ovoid. The third one, whatever you have, is going to be an ellipsoid. It's called the ellipsoid. You will have third one, the ellipsoid, which will look like an ellipse itself. It's called the ellipsoid. The fourth one is your cube. Fourth one is your cube. Fifth will be a square-based pyramid. Okay, so it's going to be a square-based pyramid. It's going to be a square-based pyramid. Sixth one is going to be a triangular-based pyramid. Triangular-based pyramid. Seventh is going to be your cone. Your eighth figure is going to be a cylinder. Your ninth is going to be rectangular prism. Rectangular prism. It's going to be a rectangular prism. And the 10th one is going to be your triangular prism. Okay, so these are all our geometric solids and we're going to be having them together. So how does these particular solids look like? Now, how do these solids look like? It's a solid figure, right? So I'm going to show you how do they look like. And what are we going to be doing with these solids is another important thing that we will have to be working with. So apart from the solids, we would also have cards. Yesterday I was mentioning to you, right? So we would have a card which is totally filled in, and then the card which has got the thicker outline, the card which has got a thinner outline. This would also have the same thing. Okay, so this is also going to have the same thing. So here, what we have to first do is like the child will have to identify the geometric solids first, and then only we would give them to identify the other things of it. Okay, the material comes like this. So I will have to be taking a mat altogether. So I can collect all my solids into my, what I could say is like onto my tray. So I would also have these three smaller wooden pieces to keep the circular ones, because they what do you call, they fall off, right? They do not stand on a flat surface. So that's the reason I would be having those three wooden pieces. And just like that, I would also have cards which has got an outline to match my 2D shape to my 3D shape. Now this is my 3D. Now what do you think it is? This is my first object which I said, and that's going to be our sphere.
Sphere.
Correct? So experience the sphere. So the child will have to be experiencing the sphere. See, it rolls off. So I cannot keep it on the flat surface. So that's the reason I'm going to be keeping it on the wooden piece. The second one is called my ovoid. It's called the ovoid. And this is also a curvy linear figure. Correct? So can I keep this on my flat surface? It will also. So it's going to, if it, look at the base, it's got a circular base. So that's the reason I would position it over there. And the third one is called my ellipsoid. It's called my ellipsoid. Sometimes you can also call in 2D as eclipse, right? So this is our ellipsoid. Circular base. So I cannot keep it there. So we keep it. So these are the first three geometric solids which has got a circular base. Next we have a square based, and this is our cube. So this is our square based. So touch and experience all your edges, surfaces. That's more important for us. Try to use 2 fingers. Once the child gets the sensitivity of all this, try and put them onto this particular matrix section. The next one is what? It's a prism, but it has got what base? Can you see the base? What is the base that we have got it over here? It's got a square base. So it's called the square base prism. It's the square based prism. So it needs to go on the square. Okay. Next, I would also have another prism. But what? Look at the base. What is the base? Base triangle. So that's the reason it's called a triangular base prism. So that's going to be a triangular base prism. So we have this being our triangular based prism. So where should I be putting it? Onto my control card of triangle. Very nice. Okay, look at this. It's got a circular base. But what it is? It's a cone. It will always have a circular base. So this is our cone. So this is our three-dimensional figure, cone. And where it should go on the circular base itself. So it's got a circular base. It's cone. Next, we would have another circular based object, and that's cylinder. The base is circular. Both the bases parallel to each other is circular. And this is our cylinder. So that is also your circular base. Next, I would have a rectangular prism. This is called a prism. Okay, we can also call it as cuboid. So this is your rectangular prism. Okay, so it's got a square base, a rectangular base, either one you can actually say, but it is a rectangular prism. Yeah, so that's a prism. This is also a prism, but it is what kind of a prism? Look at the base of it.
Triangular.
Right, so it is triangular. So triangular, this is the kaleidoscopes, whatever we make is through this, right? So this is the triangular prism. So kaleidoscope is a prism itself. So these are our geometric solid that we have. So just to have a quick recap of it, we have sphere, we have ovoid, we have ellipsoid, cube, then we have a square-based pyramid, then we have rectangular prism, square, then triangular prism, cylinder, cone. Yes, so all those were our objects. Now we have to do an activity. Once the children are introduced to the names of all of that, so we are done to introducing the solids. Now what you need to do is you need to match the solids to the pictures. Correct? Always redo that because this material also comes with pictures. If you don't have pictures, what you need to do, you can draw them. Okay, so you can draw them. So these are all like a classified card itself. So you will have a particular card over there. So what it is, you need to match it. So which object it could be? It is your ellipsoid.
Ellipsoid.
Yes, so that's an ellipsoid. So you match with that. So this is where you tend to match your card with this. Now what is this? Take a look. So it is which base? No, look at the base. Look at the base. Square-based pyramid it is. The square-based pyramid. A square-based pyramid. So look closely. Maybe in the video it is not looking clear, but it has got a line. Inside, if you see, there's a tiny line for the square base. Now take a look at this. This is our sphere.
Sphere.
Right? So we match it with our sphere. The sphere was on top. We bring it down and we match it. Okay, so that was our sphere. Next shape that we're going to be picking up is
Void.
void. We have it there. So we get our ovoid shape. Next, let's see what it is. Now this is a little tricky. Look at the base. It's a prism, but it's triangular prism. So So it's triangular prism, which we generally use it in our kaleidoscope. So we did that. And the next coming up one is a square base. What it could be, it's called a cube. It's a small one. So we have cubes. So you can make these cards, you can laminate it, and you can keep them. The printables are also available in the internet. So you can just Google it, saying the cards for geometric solids. You get those cards, you can print it, and you could use them in your classes. This is your rectangular prism.
Rectangular prism.
Rectangular prism, yes. This is your rectangular prism. And then the next one, look at this. Yeah, this is your circular base. Circular base is your cone, correct? Yeah, so you bring down your cone. Next, again, you have your circular base, but that's a cylinder.
Cylinder.
So that's your cylinder. So we take our cylinder. Yes. And then the last one, what it is? It's our triangular based pyramid. It's a pyramid. Yeah. See, there's a lot of difference between your pyramid and your prism. Okay, so you need to know that. Your pyramid will have a sharp edge on top. But look at your prism. Your prism will have a flat surface on top. That's the difference for both of them. Okay, so this covers your exercise of your geometric solids, what we actually have it. Any doubts on the material? It's a pretty simple one. So we would have geometric solids and correspondent copy control cards for all of them. And at the same time, we would also have a card which will be highlighted with completely filled in, or you can have a darker outline or a thin outline control cards. So what we generally do, we introduce the names of our 3D shapes or the geometric solids, what we have, and we match them to their corresponding 2D images. Okay, so as simple as that. This is a wonderful exercise to introduce shapes, and it's like an introduction to your geometry also for children. Okay, so let's go to the next material. So the next material what we have is related to all these are in stereognostic. Okay, the first material what we did in stereognostic is geometric solids. Next, second material in stereognostic sense, it is called as sorting trays. It's called sorting trays. Okay, so we should have used this at the beginning itself, but it's okay because it comes under that sense. So I thought I will sort it accordingly. Now, what are sorting trays? The moment that you heard the name of the tray, what came into your mind? Sorting tray.
Distinguishing. Identification and distinguishing.
Yes, identification and, you distribute them into different things and things like that, right? So we generally use different kinds of trays in our classes, correct? So we all use different trays in our class. I am also using so many trays. So what I could do here is like, I can have a tray. Okay. Now in this tray, I'm going to keep 4 saucers. I can keep 4 saucers. In the center, I'm going to keep a large saucer. Okay. In that, I'm going to put some, maybe something. It could be large beans, small beans, buttons, peas, or cloves, anything. Only in the center, I'm going to be putting. Other saucers are going to be empty. Okay, so other saucers are going to be empty. Now, after we do this, what do we generally do?
We will sort
it out.
for different sausages.
Based on the texture.
To sort according to it, right? Different ones into different things is what we're going to be sorting it. So this is your first exercise that you're going to be working with your stereognostic sense. Now, also I mentioned stereognostic is we have so many things in between, but I should not be seeing it, correct? So what should we do? We got to
Sensitize.
blindfold.
Blindfold.
We'll blindfold the child. Now we will sensitize closing our hands. Okay, every time that you're taking any of the bead that I've actually put in, you will experience the bead. Okay, how do we do that? So for that, we need what? We need a tray, and we will take 4 saucers. This is the requirement of your sorting tray altogether. Okay, so this is how we do it. You take the material, and then slowly you take those saucers. You work on sensitizing. First important thing, you will make sure that the child is blindfolded. We want the child to get blindfolded. And in the center of the saucer is what you're going to be putting a lot of things all together. Correct? So I've taken some beans and other things, different things all together. Now what you need to do is like you have to go one by one. Take any of the bead. Okay, don't use all your fingers, just with your thumb and your index finger or the middle finger. You can take only 1 or 2, 3 fingers and try and experience the bead. Each bead is what you need to experience. So let's start to experience. Take any bead, try to shuffle them in case if most of them are together like that. So experience the bead all together. Okay, and try to put it into an empty one. Okay, this looks totally a different one altogether for me. So you're going to be putting that into a different saucer. This itself is totally different. So we're going to be putting that into a different saucer. And check. Okay, that was something which was similar to the first one or the last one. So it was totally different altogether, correct? So this was related to my second one. So at the beginning, instead of giving 4 saucers, you can give 2 saucers. Then you can increase it to 3. Then you can go to your 4. But make sure your child completes all this activity together. So this is your first stereognostic material that you're going to be working with your child, and it's called sorting trays. Now the same sorting trays, you can work with different other things also. Like say, for example, if I have colors, now I can also go with my visual sense. Now I'm not going with the stereognostic, but rather I would go with the visual sense wherein I ask the child to sort based upon colors. So that you can take up any such Montessori trays. If you don't have it, you get the kitchen platters also, you will get it like this. So you can sort even the pom-pom balls, which can be related to different colors. So let the child identify based upon the colors. Now for this, we are not blindfolding it. It's a visual sense activity. So you need to get to understand this. So if you're blindfolding and you're doing this, becomes a stereognostic sense. If you're not blindfolding and if you're asking the child to do this, it becomes a visual sense activity. Okay. So you can use these sorting trays for any such kind of sorting exercises that you generally have it in your classes. The other thing, since we're all relatively doing it with what I could say is like, every day we are working at home, and most of the time children are there at our homes, right? Right now we're all working from home, and Montessori is also like helping the children to get ready for their home preparations and other things. Our cutlery boards are usually good enough to help them to sort. So you can give them the experiences of sorting different things, like, the spoons and forks, the smaller spoons, the larger spoons, the knives and other things also the child can actually segregate, and they could put that also. So give them the entire combination. Let the child try and sort it out. So you can give them a marking. So take a cardboard sheet and tell them where should the big spoons go and where should the small spoons go and where should be the knives, the butter knives should go. Let the child sort it. So meanwhile, what happens? Your work is also sorted and children will also be able to do it. So find out the different things that you could help and make the children to sort. Okay, so sorting trays are really, really helpful for our children to keep our things organized and it helps them also to visually see the things that they go together. Okay, so these are the things that they go together. So that covers your sorting trays exercise of your stereognostic sense. Okay, the next exercise is called mystery bag. Okay, so mystery bag, the name sounds mystery, but it is not that very mystery. Okay, why we call it as a mystery bag, or what is mystery bag is? It's a bag which is very attractive. Okay, it's just a bag which is very attractive, and I'm going to be putting 10 different objects or any different objects into the bag. Okay, it could be like key or a cotton ball, a button or a pen or anything which the child will be able to recognize. So I'm going to be putting all those objects into my mystery bag. So what I will do is, like, I will ask my child to blindfold again. They have to gently put their hand into the mystery bag and find out what is there in that. So you can make some funny noises like abracadabra, what is there inside. Okay, so it's not only the object. Here, the child will start to feel the object. Okay, so that's more important. Is the object soft? Is the object light? Is the object rough? Is the object fluffy? Is the object whatever? Okay, whatever kind of the feel that the child actually has it. Okay, so each time that they put their hand into the box, sorry, into the bag, they feel it, and then they come out with an excitement. Yes, it's a cotton ball. Yes, this is a keychain. Yes, this is a soft toy. Okay, they have to come out with that excitement. Okay, so it's totally like you're working with the child who are going to take turn to feel the object, and they'll have to guess the names of the objects into the bag. Okay, so that's called your mystery bag altogether. So you can make the bag of your own. So you can put whichever kind of a bag that you wanted, but make sure the bag is slightly, I could say, is like attractive. Okay, so usually we get these kinds of bags available in the market. Okay, so you can put up any kind of laces or something on that. So when the child actually holds it, they feel the texture itself is nice. Okay, so you can put some objects into it. So we're going to be putting some objects into it, and this is called a mystery bag. And what we generally do, let's see. Okay, what kind of objects can I actually put it? So we need to sensitize. Now the child gently puts the hand inside, identifies, tells the name of the object, then takes it out. Oh, it's a shell. The child identifies, oh, it's a spoon. So we're going to do this. So you can fill in any kind of objects into your mystery bag, and that's going to be helping the child to name or to know the names of our mystery bag. So this is one part of this exercise. Clear, guys? So we can put in any of the objects into the bag, and the child will have to be taking it all across. So this is also a stereognostic sense activity, I could say. The next one is related to globe. Okay, the next one is related to your globe. Your globe can be a sandpaper globe. Your globe can be a painted globe. So it can be a sandpaper globe, or it could be a painted globe also. Now, why do we introduce the sandpaper globe is because you want the child to work on understanding that the entire globe is made up of water and land masses. Okay, so water is all covered with glue and the land is covered with sandpaper. So this is what we're going to be telling the child. Okay, you can take a small world globe, which is of a sandpaper globe. When you ask in the market the sandpaper globe, you will get the globe with only two colors, where the land is covered with the sandpaper and the water surfaces will all be painted blue in color. Now, what will the child do? Why should he understand this? Because every time the child sensitizes the outer part of the globe, he will feel the rough part and the smooth part. The rough part and the smooth part. So whenever he is experiencing the rough part, you can tell that that's the land. And if it is belonging, or if you say it's like if it's land, the land can also be a continent, right? So you're going to help the child understand this is land, this is continent, and then you keep turning the globe, and you'll still find other parts which is being rough. And you say, this is another continent, this is another continent. Then you touch the smooth surface, you say, oh, this is the ocean. Okay, so this is water, this is smooth surface. Okay, so this is land, this is water. Now, here is what the child learns two things. The language over here, in introducing on the sandpaper globe, we would introduce the language as this land, water. Okay, you say land and water. This is one of the things that you're going to be introducing to children. So this is your land masses. So why do we do this exercise? Because the child has to understand that the shape of the earth or the continents of the earth. The child will have to understand about all of that. So let's see, how do we do this? How do we help the child to work on this particular thing? So whenever you're getting these kinds of globes to your classes, the first important thing is about the sensitizing. So you need to always sensitize your globes, correct? So this could be relatively in your geography, but at the same time, that the child will have to experience the globe. We need to experience the globe. When we experience it, there could be rougher surfaces and there could be smooth surfaces. Once the teacher does that, give it for the child. Let the child also experience the surface. Okay, wherever there is rough, you say this is land. Wherever it is smooth, you say it is water. So that means your entire globe, your earth is made up of land and water. So you go continent-wise continent. You say, okay, so this is one continent. Try and experience that. Okay, that's Asia. You can name it also. But here I wouldn't name it. I would just say, is it water? Is it land? The child experience, oh, it is smooth, ma'am. So maybe it is water. Or you say it is water. It can be an ocean, it can be a sea, but it is water. Turn the globe, ask them to experience the other part of the globe itself. Now, this is one part of your exercise wherein you give them the experience. Now, further, if you want to go and explain them about the multiple parts of the globe, say, for example, that is when you use another thing. Okay, so use another different kind of a globe. That's going to be your colored globe altogether. So we would use a colored globe to introduce, I could say continents. Okay, so we could go with the colored globe to introduce continents. Now here is what you will tell them, that first you said the names of the surfaces were rough and smooth. And then now you're asking for the colored globe. So you will hold the globe first, you'll show them, and you will tell children, can you identify the colors, children, here? Turn around the globe and ask them, can you identify the colors? How many colors can you see? Let them count, let them see it. Here in the colored globe, one color, yellow color we have, red color we have, orange color, pink color, and then we have black color. Remove the globe and show bottom also we have another continent altogether. So how many colors were there? So we had 7 colors. So that means every color is indicating a land mass. And each of those color or the land mass is also associated with what? A continent. Correct? So how many continents we have? So we have 7 continents. Yes. So now you slowly ask the children, turn around the globe and you tell them, do you know which continent that we live in? Do we live here? Then you talk about that continent. Turn around to the other continent and you say, what is the name of that continent? So you will slowly start introducing the names of the 7 continents and you say, this is Asia. And that's the largest continent that we have. And we're all staying in Asia. Okay. So that's the conclusion that you'd give. And you go more beyond exploring that continent. Okay. Now I stopped at Asia. Now, since we're all belonging to Asia, we stop at Asia. And then you teach children more about Asia. What are the other neighboring countries in Asia? What is your habitat? What is your religion? What What is your tradition? What do you follow? What are your food habits? What do you eat? What is famous in that particular places? Is there any historical monuments? Was there any history? What is the geographical factors of it? Those things we take it from here in our cultural sciences. So we have the fifth part of our Montessori, right? So our fifth part or the fifth practicals of Montessori deals from here. Okay, so in our sensorial, we stop at continents, but in the cultural aspects, from here is what you take it further. You go beyond. What are the animals which is growing in that continent? What about the birds? What about the vegetation? What about the tree? What about the plantations? How is the weather there? What are the seasons? How are people there? What kind of dresses? How is our neighborhood? What are the different places that I could visit? What about the tourism places? So those are somewhere related to our cultural sciences, wherein we tend to learn about the cultural aspects. Now, the teacher does a little bit more. She goes beyond and she talks about different other things, right? So we can further go and give them about the puzzle cards. The puzzle maps are also a part of our exercise, and this is going to be the last material. Okay, so this is the last material in your practicals, and it's called your puzzle maps. So once you introduce the globe to children, you need to give children about the puzzle maps. Okay, so you have to tell children about the different continents. They have to know the names of the continents also. So that's your Europe, your Asia, your Africa, then your North America, then South America, then the bottom we have Antarctica, and then we have Australia. It's a pin-up board. So what it's a pin-up board. So what you do over there is like, so there are how many continents? You teach them a finger play that we have 7 continents and let the child pin it up. So this is Europe, this is Asia, this is Africa, and then this is North America, and then we have South America, and to the bottom we have is Antarctica, and then towards this side we have Australia. So these are 7 continents, and the child also starts to learn. The next further lessons on this could be, if I'm teaching about animals, what are the animals that is growing in each of those continents? So I can say these are the famous animals of North America, South America. These are the animals of Antarctica. If you see the penguins, the seals, the killer whales, they're all a part of your Antarctica. So you can pick up any such kind of learnings, whichever it could be. Right now, it's only the animals. You can now start to pick up the different kinds of other things, which is relatively useful in those particular areas. Okay, so that is your what do you call, like a sensorial exercise, and we would be working with all these wonderful materials in our classes. Okay, so it was a real short exercise. It was a real short exercise for all of us, and it was very simple. And that was your sensorial exercise altogether. Okay, so that covers the 9 senses and all the activities for your 9 senses. Very short, very crisp. It was a simple exercise that we did so far. Okay. So any doubts, just go through your books. I'll give you just 1 minute. If you have any doubt on any material, you can let me know. Just go through, just go through. Any doubts, guys? You can keep saying.
Ma'am, just a minute. I just
Class learner. Okay, okay, no problem, no problem. Yes, guys, tell me.
Yes, ma'am. Just a doubt. How do you correlate this geometrical shapes with the stereonastic senses? I just wanted to ask you that. Ma'am, you're on mute.
work with geometric solids with stereognostic sense is like close your eyes. The moment you close your eyes, you're stepping into stereognostic sense. Take any object, just feel it. So it becomes your tactile muscular because you are able to define with this. Okay. So if I'm taking this, I can feel it. So what we do for geometric solids is, I take up a solid, and if you see the first exercise, we were only sensitizing. We were turning around the objects, and then we were touching the surfaces also, right? Correct? So it is stereo.
Yes.
So that's the reason you put. See, more often, in whichever exercises that you actually take also, whichever you take also, what happens, it becomes okay for all of us. But what is very important for me is I need to sensitize my fingers, whichever way. But every time I'm sensitizing, I'm using other sense organs. I'm seeing and then touching and feeling it. I'm hearing it, seeing it, touching and feeling it. So there is a combination of multiple senses altogether. But when we are particularly working with stereognostic, you want your entire concentration to only to feel the material and to tell it. Then you would not take the support of your eyes. So that's your tactile muscular. It's just an extension to your tactile sense. That's it. Okay.
Got it.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we completed how many practicals so far? So we have completed, I think, 3. So we finished language, we finished math, we finished sensorial. Tomorrow we're going to start practicals. It's called EPL, so exercises of practical life. It's going to be a very simple, what I could say is like a communication kind of an activity. It is most of them. So we take care of ourselves. To take care about ourselves, what we do, to take care about the environment, what we got to do. There are activities of care and movement, so we got to be doing that. And we also have activities on grace and courtesy. And we also have activities on coordination of movement. Yes. So these would be your practical life exercises, which is very, very important. So we should have started with this. But I thought like I would start with language because language is a large portion. So you get a lot of time to revise. And in between, if you want me to ask, if you wanted to ask anything, I could relatively give it to you. So that's the reason I began with the language at the beginning. Okay. So then we have the circle time, and then we also have a little bit of learning disability and other things. So we will also see that as a small case study we can see, because as a teacher, you should know if the child is unable to pick up in your classes, if they're really having some kind of learning problems or difficulties, what are those issues and how do we overcome it and how do we segregate, how do we write reports? Those are also essentials for us to give it. As a teacher, it's very, very important, and predominantly we need to be working on those particular skills as well. Okay, so that's one. And I still see you need to work on your pronunciation skills because some of the words are pronounced totally wrong. So we need to still work on it. Okay, so whenever I'm like getting assignments from some of the students when they're saying some stories and all of that. So for a few of them, I've already given the update like what needs to be corrected, but try to have a keynote on the pronunciations properly because you need to express it properly. Okay, so that's one part of it. So that's for the today's song, and I've come almost to the end of the day, right? So as usual, we're going to have a goodbye song. Yes. So should we wind up the day, or we still have any more doubts to carry on? Yes. Guys, I'm just waiting for your reply.
Yeah, fine.
All right. Okay, then. So we're almost towards the end of the day. And as usual, we're going to be singing a goodbye song. So we're going to use the extension to whichever we had as the hello song. So it was like, hello, everybody. How are you today? It's nice to sing and party every day. Hello to my teacher. We have a good day. Right? same song, we're going to sing it as goodbye. Okay? Goodbye, everybody.
Have a good day.
Goodbye,
Goodbye, everybody. It's time to say so.
goodbye to
Goodbye to my teacher. Goodbye
to
to my friends.
friends.
Goodbye, everybody, till I see you again.
yes,
Wave your hands.
yes. Try to sing. Okay? Hand left,
Have your hand
hand right.
Turn around and clap your hand twice.
right.
Step to the left, step to the right. Ma'am, we can't see down
Yes.
part.
What you could do here is like, so once we have this, it says like, wave your hand left, wave your hand right,
Right.
turn around once, your hand twice,
Right.
step to the left, step to the right,
Right.
step to the middle, jump out.
Jump to the right.
Okay, so that's it. So hello everybody.
Party. We had another good
Hi
day.
everybody. We had
I want to say
goodbye
Everybody.
everybody.
It's time to say goodbye
Goodbye
to
to
Goodbye to my teacher.
goodbye to
goodbye to my friends.
goodbye
Goodbye,
everybody.
everybody.
goodbye to my friends.
Goodbye everyone.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
ma'am.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am. Have a
Thank
good
you,
day.
ma'am. Bye, ma'am. Bye, everyone.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am.